Hey y'all, this is Jessica with Bless Your Heart. Today we're going to do a diamond plate wood grain tumbler with a wrench handle. We're going to put on our template first. This is a 20-ounce skinny from Hogg, so there's going to be a slight taper at the bottom. So you're going to want to make sure that you kind of wrap it around accordingly. You're going to just push it down like you would do a full vinyl wrap and make sure it fits to the best of its ability. Now for this particular tumbler, you don't really want to sand before because you want that metal that's going to show through the spray paint here in a minute to be shiny, and that's what's going to give us that diamond plate look. Now take it outside and spray paint the whole thing with metallic silver. Once that's dry, start peeling off your stencil and you'll see that shiny metal coming through. That's the reason we didn't want to sand before, because you'd be able to see all those scuff marks underneath that stencil, and this just shines and makes it look like a toolbox. This is what I use to attach the sockets and the wrench. It's a 2-part putty epoxy. I followed the CC DIY tumbler tutorial that they have on their channel for the wrench tumbler. That's all I did to it and followed what she said exactly. We're going to do a light coat of epoxy over all of it just to kind of seal all that in. We're not going to go all the way up on the sockets and the wrench just yet. We're just kind of make sure we're going to go up a little bit over that little putty that's there just to kind of seal that in and keep it where it's supposed to be. We're going to tape off the wrench next so we can do our spray painting, so we don't want to disturb any of that. Now tape off the handle to get ready for spray paint, just to the best of your ability. This first color is Slate and it's a matte. We're going to spray paint in and let it dry completely. Then we're going to go in with this matte white and let it dry completely also. The alcohol inks we're going to use for our wood grain are all Brea Reese. It's Fog, Slate, and Mars Black. We're going to start with the Fog first, and we're just going to do like we would do a normal wood grain. I like to use these Dollar Tree eyeshadow brushes. It gives me kind of a softer look, but you use whatever you're used to using or you like to use. We're going to cover the whole cup in this Fog, just like we would any other wood grain. And now for the Slate. This is not going to be all over the whole cup like we did with the Fog. This is going to be hit or miss, just where you think you need a little bit extra detail and how we just want to create some dimension to it and get some movement. You can add as much or as little as you want. The more you add, the more of that fog will kind of just disappear into all of it. So if you want all of the colors to show through, don't go really heavy-handed with the next colors that you're going to use. Now here's the Mars Black. It will take over if you use too much of it, so please don't do a whole lot unless you want the cup to be mostly dark. I'm just using a dot here and there, and I'm kind of trying to feather it into the middle of the cup as best I can, and that's pretty much it. If you get to a point where the ink starts to dry too quickly on you or your brush is acting kind of wonky, you can dip it in or rub it on some alcohol. I have that pad next to me that's got some alcohol on it, and that will just kind of help re-moisten everything up, and you can move it around a little bit more. Sometimes these alcohol inks want to dry real quick, especially when you've got all these layers on them. And here's what we got. We need to take it outside and spray seal it. I spray seal it with a clear gloss, and you can see that it crackled on me a little bit. I have no idea why it did that. If y'all do, somebody let me know. We're going to distress this a little bit. I started out using just acetone polish remover, and as you can see, it's going to take a long time to kind of rub that off. Eventually, I go in with acetone from the hardware store, and that was a heck of a lot better. But just kind of distress it where you want to. You rub it, the more you rub it, the more that stuff will show. That's why we did 2 coats of spray paint, because that gray will show through underneath that white, and it'll help us look a little bit more distressed and a little bit more worn. So just distress it like you would till your heart's content. And here's the difference between polish acetone and hardware acetone. Just watch how it just melts that stuff away, and it's not going to be near the effort to do with the other. See how that just rubs it all off, no problem? This is really the way to go. To do a little bit more cleaning and a little bit more detail work, you want to get your 91% rubbing alcohol out and just use a clean rag, because you don't want to mix those chemicals. And you just kind of go in and rub where you've already rubbed off, and that'll shine everything back up. And this will take off surface paint. It won't get into it, it won't do anything, but like where you get those little pieces where it's a little bit white, you can go in and rub just a little bit more of that, and more of that gray will show if that's the look you're going for. Or you can just clean up what you have and be done. And now we want to epoxy until smooth. We want to make sure that you seal all that stuff in. This is where you're going to get your sockets real good and the wrench real good. You want to make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies of both ends of that socket to make sure that everything is nice and sealed in. If you need more than 1 coat of epoxy to make sure it's all smooth, do that, because you don't want to do too thick of coats, because it will all pull up right around where those sockets are, and it'll look like a lumpy mess, and nobody wants that. Now we've got to clean the rim. So you want to use a sharp, straight edge to kind of get all that epoxy off of there. Nobody wants that on there. You're going to go all the way around all of it, and if you've got some on the inside, be a little bit careful, because you don't really want to scratch the insides. If you've got any spray paint on the inside, just use a piece of cotton with some acetone on it and just rub it until it all comes off. If you've got epoxy on the inside, gently just kind of pop it off with your straight edge. You do want to be careful with this, because you don't really want to scratch the inside of the cup. And here we go. Here's our finished result. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.